Hello, everybody. Reggie Time here, and in just a moment, I'm going to give you my essential rules for winning at micro stakes poker in the modern environment. For basically, I'm going to give you some rules that I follow religiously, that I want people who care about my channel and like enjoy my content. I want you guys to follow this almost religiously next year and start, if you're not already a winning player, maybe try and turn yourself into a winning player. And I've got a bunch of rules. I've written them down. I've taken some time over it. I haven't written a script, but I've written some bullet points that I want to talk about. And we're going to get to that in just a minute. But before we do, oh, by the way, this screen isn't going to change. It's just there as something to fucking look at because I was contemplating doing this on webcam, but realised I didn't want God knows how many minutes of my fucking 8 million chins and badly shaven fucking chins captured on YouTube for posterity. So we're here with we're here just with this as a background. It ain't going to change. You can effectively this is like a podcast rather than a video. So yeah, don't be looking at the screen. Just listen but do pin your ears back because there's going to be some advice I'm going to give here that's going to be thoroughly unpopular. And that will fly in the face of a lot of the stuff you think you need to be doing. A lot of people won't like hearing it. There'll be a lot of like shit regs who are just going to be like, fuck off, Reg. Fuck off, Reg. A lot of the things they're going to be saying that's not going to be into it because a lot of it goes against how you see your favorite streamer or YouTuber doing things. Um, it won't be popular. People won't like it. Probably I don't think I get too much negative comments because I tend not to get negative comments, but I imagine there'll be a lot of people chatting away in little groups that they're in that they don't really chat to me much, saying "fucking hell, what a fat idiot this lad is." I promise you, every bit of advice I'm going to give you will improve your win rate, but it will not improve your popularity at the tables. Um, yes, but before then, it's probably going to be my last video of the year because I did my last video and I didn't enjoy making it. I don't enjoy doing the hand reviews, static hand reviews. I love doing the highlight videos, but I don't love playing speed poker, so I'm not going to do them. I'm not going to make highlights of my regular tables that I play because I don't want to out my screen name. I don't want to out where I play. And I don't want people knowing when they're playing against me. All right, this is Reg, is it? Because I'm totally anonymous when I play. So yeah, I don't know. There's probably, I mean, I've said before at the last video that I end up making some, but I really do think it will be the last video of the year. I've got a volume goal that I wish I hadn't set to try and complete. Um, and yeah, that's a whole different fucking story about why we shouldn't be setting ourselves challenges. Um, and certainly not setting ourselves challenges that force us to do things differently. Because that's kind of what I've done. I've set myself a challenge to play 60,000 hands of reg tables. That's fucking hard to do. To do that, I've got to play more hours than I normally play at more tables than I normally play. So therefore, I'm taking an environment that I have naturally fallen into that brings out the best in me, and I'm saying, no, 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 Reg, we're not doing that. We're not doing the thing that makes us make money. We're going to do something that we don't know if it makes us money or not, and we're going to do it for more hours than usual. Oh, and on top of that, Reg, you're going to try implementing some new software while you're doing it. You know, you're going to switch from Holder Manager to Poker Tracker. Unsurprisingly, it's been a fucking disaster so far. I've played something like 40 hours, and I've made like 140 euros. So it's pathetic. It's fucking useless. Made like 7 buy-ins in 20,000 hands or something. Maybe even less than that. Maybe I made 100. No, I haven't even made 7 buy-ins. I've made a little bit extra with I ran good in a leaderboard thing and I've cleared some bonuses. But at the tables, I've maybe won 3 or 4 buy-ins in whatever 20,000 hands. Fucking total shambles, total joke. Wish I hadn't started it, but I have, and I want to try and finish it for once. But yeah, it's not going to help me make content, and I'm probably not going to make any content. I think the only way I could consider making content is if I asked people to send me some of their databases, and then I could like pick out some of the hands they played terribly and expose them on YouTube. But I don't even think I can be asked to do that, to be honest with you. Anyway, that's all by the by. Let's get on to my rules that I stick to and that you should stick to if you want to be low stakes online poker in 2023. First one, we've talked about it a lot in recent videos. Game select. table select and game select. Don't play speed poker. Do play reg tables, and do make sure there are like fish at any table you're at. If there's not a fish, then you're not there. Simple as that. There's just not enough dead money in speed poker. Um, there are some fish in the games. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that's all regs, but it's mostly regs. It's like if you log into a pool, you see, I don't know, say, you see it quite often. Oh, there's 20 people in this pool. But then you're playing like four-handed. That's because of those 20 people. There's maybe 5 or 6 regs playing 2 or 3 tables. And then they add up. So let's say there's 4 regs playing 3 tables, that's 12 seats. If there's another 3 regs playing 2 tables, that's 18 seats. So there might only be, say, there's 20 people in the pool, but there might only be 9 people total. Or 8 people total. So yeah, the reg to fish ratio is absolutely awful. And on top of that, the fish just play tighter in speed poker just because they can. The boredom factor is less for them. So if you get someone who, if they were playing like one regular table, might play, I don't know, say 40/11, they'll get to a speed poker table and they'll be playing 25/11 because they just don't get as bored. They're like, okay, right, I don't have to play the fucking Jack 9 offsuit because I can just click the speed 4 button and I might get Jack 10 suited the next hand or whatever. So they just don't play anywhere near as many hands out of boredom. So if they're not VPing as much, then they're just playing better ranges. They're still not playing them well, but they're playing better, tighter ranges. It's going to be harder to extract value from them, etc., etc. So yeah, speed poker is bad because there's too many regs and the fish just play tighter. So do not play speed poker. It's a total waste of fucking time and energy. Nobody's beating them those games for decent win rates. And that's like decent, well-studied regs. Even decent, well-studied regs aren't winning for much more than, say, 4 bigs 100. If you're not a decent, well-studied reg, you're not going to win at all. Maybe you break even if you're lucky. And you're probably going to lose. Oh, good man. It's got a bit of indigestion. It's also like it's in speed poker. It's also like it's a lot easier for the weaker regs to avoid tough spots. Like when you're playing reg tables, if you've got a weaker reg at your table, and I've tried not to play with any regs, but obviously they're unavoidable. You have to play with some. If you've got a weaker reg at your table, you can like apply a lot more pressure to them than you can in speed poker. You've got a weak reg to your direct right, for example. You can just like start 3-betting them, like to constantly just like building the pressure on them. I'm not saying getting out of line 3-betting, but just taking more of the lower frequency 3-betting hands and just applying pressure to them and just like seeing what happens. They'll either leave the table, which is fine, you don't mind that. They leave the table and hopefully they get replaced by a fish, or they'll have to start adjusting to you, but they'll be making adjustments that they're not comfortable with, putting them in spots where they're likely to make like a lot more mistakes. I know this because when I'm the weaker reg at the table, that's what happens to me. So if that's happening to me with like if the reg's better than me in this position on me, I typically just leave the table. But when I don't and I choose to stay and like try and battle, usually that better rig gets a better of me. So that's what I try and do, therefore, to other weaker rigs. We just, but you can't do that in speed poker because if you've got a weak rig to your right on the speed poker table, the next hand he might not be at the table or might be to your left or what have you, and it's really difficult to create like a short-term dynamic or meta game where you can maybe try and put pressure on them and have them make some pretty big mistakes against you. That just doesn't happen in speed poker. The meta is very different. The table dynamics, the game dynamics are very different. You don't get that. You don't get to build up that kind of relationship with somebody. There's very little meta game. It's also like speed poker. It's hard to see showdowns. It's just hard to learn more about our opponents and how they're building their ranges unless we go and do deep dives into them away from the table. And we all think we should do that. We all do it sometimes, but none of us do it enough. We should probably be spending hours like learning about our most like regular opponents to try and figure out like where they're leaking, where they're doing things wrong. But it's hard work to do. You don't always end up coming up with very much, and it's just not as much fun as playing. It's quite boring, so we don't do it. So how do we learn about how our opponents are constructing their ranges? We do it at the table by seeing showdowns, by reviewing hands at the table. Like, okay, so he did this on this board texture. He built his range like this, and then you can get notes in game. You can't do that at speed poker because how often do you like fold, watch your hand to showdown. Sometimes, usually when you want to see if you would have made your set or what have you, or if your draw would have got there, you're not doing it to like, oh, I wonder what my opponent's got here. I need to get this and take a note on it. Some of us are, but we're not doing it very often. We just can't be bothered. We don't do it. So we just don't learn anywhere near as quickly about our most regular opponents. We certainly don't learn how fish are playing their ranges because we're out of the pots so often when fish are in the pots. Unless we had a good reason to stick around and see a showdown, we're not doing it. So if there is some fish out there who's like really badly constructing his ranges in a way that's incredibly easy to exploit, we're not going to pick up on that. Whereas at regular tables, we will pick up on that if we're paying attention. So yeah, they're just some of the reasons, and there's a lot more why speed poker is really bad and why you probably don't want to be playing it. There, obviously, it's easy to get volume. I get it's convenient. I hear all the reasons for why people want to play speed poker. None of them, and I mean none of them, are good reasons when it comes to actually making money. They're just reasons for it's easy. I can get X amount of hands per hour in. I can get good volume. It's an easy grind, etc., etc. Yep, but you don't fucking win. So pack it in. Do something more productive. If you're going to put like plenty of hours a week into poker, try actually making some fucking money at it. Right, on to regs now. And this is, I think, where I'm going to say some stuff that many of you would disagree with. But it's, if you sit down and think about it properly, I think you're going to find it hard to fucking argue with me. And that is that like an enormous amount of that lower stakes regs, and I mean an enormous amount, like fucking 90% plus, are just enormous fucking nits. And yeah, I mean you, and I mean me. We're all fucking enormous nits. Don't be ashamed of that. Just be aware of it. I mean, I've been called a nit for fucking years, and it's a badge I wear with pride. I genuinely do. It's hands down the easiest way to win at low stakes poker. Playing tight is definitely the best strategy, without question, without any question. The rake is high. It's quite tempting sometimes, I guess, when you see some loose players splashing around, to also play like a little bit looser yourself to try and get in the action. But quite often that will just lead you into like many multi-way pots, and it's just hard to win multi-way pots. So just try having the best hand or the strongest range most of the time, and poker will just come a lot easier to you. I get that. So when I'm criticizing nits, I'm not criticizing them for the style they're choosing to play. I'm just saying we don't want to play with too many of the cunts, which again, to go back to speed poker, that's what you're doing in speed poker. You don't want to play with too many of these fuckers, because where's your fucking profit coming from? If and what happens is you just end up getting tighter and tighter and tighter till you get to the point where speed poker now, if you look at the table at the screen for a moment, you just see 1914, 1916, 1812, another 1916, a 2315, and what have you. You just see all these regs that are, they're just massive fucking nits. I mean, 1914, it's uber nit. I mean, even I'm fucking looser than that. And there's loads of these guys around, and I'm not criticising them because, it just doesn't make sense to play loosely. So yeah, don't be ashamed of that. Just don't play with too many of the fuckers. But you don't want to be like, you don't want to be like fucking. Oh, no, it doesn't matter. Anyways, how do we adjust to playing against fellow nits? Well, the hands down, in my opinion, the best way to adjust to fellow nits is just fucking ignore them. Literally treat them like an empty seat. If they're to act behind you, just open your normal ranges, maybe even open a little bit looser or what have you, and then if they like 3-bet you, just and I mean massively overfold. I mean, enormously overfold. You wouldn't believe how much I want to overfold. I mean, if it wasn't for the fact that I play in games where there's fish that regularly min 3-bet, I would love my 4 to 3-bet stat to be like 80%, without exaggeration, 75 to 80%, because we just don't want to be playing. I'm playing against players who are typically coming out at stats of 23, 18, 4.53%, 4.5% 3-bet or 5% 3-bet. Why the fuck would I want to defend 50% of my opens against some cunt whose range is literally aces, kings, queens, ace, king, a little bit of ace, queen, etc.? They're just not doing it. They just don't find fucking bluffs. Once in a blue moon, they will find some random bluff, and that's probably when they're a bit tilted or what have you. Just just not doing it. I refuse to give them action. I just treat them with utter contempt. Like, you're a fucking absolutely massive nit. I just opened ace jack suited. You three bet me, and I'm just gonna fucking fold it because you're a dickhead and you don't three bet anywhere near widely enough. And I would love my fold to three bet to be way higher than it is. It's already higher than most at 60 odd percent. It would be even higher than that if it wasn't for fucking cunt bag fish literally clicking it back three betting. When they've just got strong hands, of course, but you have to defend versus to click it back. So you've got to massively overfold to them. Even like someone playing as using air quotes here, as aggressively as, I don't know, fucking 25-20 with an 8% three bet. They're still fucking nits, Um, they're probably one of the most loose aggressive players in the pool. 25-20, 8% three bet. Wow, this guy's way out of line. Bang 8% in Equilab. They hit our line. You can still construct an entirely value-based range with 8%. Maybe they're like, I don't know, aces, kings, queens. Maybe they're throwing jacks in there because they're fucking maniacs. Maybe they're throwing like ace, queen off in there. Maybe they've got the occasional king 8 suited because fucking hell they're baller and they've looked at GTO Wizard for 10 minutes. But still, it's 8%. It's fuck all. It's still an incredibly narrow, incredibly nitty range. Just overfold to fuck. Oh, you three bet me, have you? Fuck you then, you dickhead. I fold. And only continue with your very strongest hands against them. Treat them like empty chairs and just ignore them. Treat them with the contempt that all us nits deserve to be treated with. Do not, I repeat, do not give them fucking loose action. Just refuse to. Yeah, sure. Will they get occasional like three bets past you? Yes, they will. Good for them. The amount of money that you are saving, and by not defending versus the strongest hand they've got. I mean, why do you want to defend Queen 10 suited when they've just got that fucking dominated to shit? For example, fuck them, absolutely fuck them, massively overfold, and that the more you do it, the more addictive it fucking gets and the more you enjoy doing it. It's fucking beautiful. Don't give them any fucking action. You won't see many downturns in your graph and you just keep stacking fish. But you won't be losing many big pots when you flop top pair with your queen 10. And you're, oh, fuck, I've got to call these cunts down. And then, oh, yeah, they've got aces, have they? Oh, there's a fucking surprise. Oh, they've got queens, have they? Oh, there's a fucking surprise. Fuck them. Give them nout. Give them absolutely nothing whatsoever. If you could easily decry my advice by just going straight to I don't know, your favorite pre-flop online web-based simulator, and you're gonna say, oh, but Reg, GTO Wizard or whatever saying I need to defend X, Y, and Z versus these three bets, and yeah, you're right. GTO Wizard is correct. You do, but GTO Wizard is playing against itself, and GTO Wizard is finding all the light three bets, whereas most regs aren't. Most regs are finding all the strong three bet candidates, but they're not there finding the weak ones. You know what I mean? How many regs when you say it's blind versus blind, and you're opening your 35-40% from the small blind or whatever, which is under raising, but whatever. It's where most of us are, and the big blind's three betting, say, I don't know, 10% of the time. I mean, they need to be three betting their content in GTO Wizardland way more than they need to be finding the three bets with the 10-5 suited, for example, and stuff like that. They're not doing it, absolutely not fucking doing it. So they're finding all the strong parts of a three betting range, GTO Wizard or whichever it is you use, whichever solver you use. They're finding all those strong hands, but they're not finding the weak hands. You might find one every blue moon, but not very often, and certainly not in speed poker. So why would you? I get if they're three betting correctly, you need to find all those defends, but they're not, because if they were three betting correctly, their three bet will be up at around 12%, 11%, 10%. But it's not. Their overall average three bet is coming out of 4% and 5%. So fuck them. Just fuck them. Don't do it. Don't give them action. They don't deserve it. I don't deserve action. When I three bet someone, I don't deserve action. I get it because I'm playing against people that are worse than me, but I don't deserve action, and I wouldn't give action to me. Don't give action to people who are even tighter than me. Just why on earth would you want to defend? You would defend so many mediocre holdings against someone who's finding all of the value hands and maybe not even 25%, maybe probably less than 25% of the lighter three bets. So yeah, basically just don't give fellow regs action with the weaker part of your range. Don't try bluff catching them. If you can't beat your value, just absolutely massively fucking overfold. Overfold to fuck. It's boring. It'll piss you off a little bit. It'll make you think you're being exploited. None of those things are happening. Well, you're getting pissed off, but you're not getting exploited. Just treat their ranges with, as I talked about earlier, just treat them with absolute fucking contempt. Just assume that they're excessively value heavy and just like only call with your very, very best bluff catchers that also beat some value. There will be a tiny minority of regs who do have a decent number of bluffs in the ranges, but unless that really shows by their numbers over a decent sample size, just stick to just never paying them off. They're a bunch of cunts. Just don't give them fucking money. Just do not do it. And long term, at the end of the month, at the end of the year, your bankroll will thank me for that advice. Right. Now we're getting on to like how to play against fish. You've got to pay massive, massive attention to the fish at your tables because this is pretty much where all your profit's coming from. Like, unlike the regs, who like relatively similar statistically. I mean, is there a huge difference between someone playing 1940 and someone playing 2315? No. Is there a huge difference between someone 3-betting 3.5% and 5%? No. You know, they're essentially the same fucking player. But fish, they are hugely fucking different. As we all know, they vary enormously. You know, you get your 100% VPIPs, your 80%, your blah, 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 blah. You know, you get some that 3-bet way too much. You get some that never 3-bet at all. You've got to pay massive attention to these players because, as I said, all of your profit is coming from these people. If you game selecting well, there are fish all over the place. You know, their numbers are all over the place. And their approach to the game is just like, you know, you see everything. You see every fucking every way of style of playing the game possible. There's way too many different styles to start like even trying to cover it in a video like this or in an audio thing like this. But if you pay attention, you know, you're gonna find out ways to stack them quite quickly. You know, you want to be, as we talked about earlier, you want to be paying attention to hands that you're not involved in, but they are. You want to go back and check hands they've played and like figure out like, are they value betting too much? Are they bluffing too much? Are they not value betting enough? They'll be doing something too much and some other things not enough. And you just need to figure out what it is they're doing. If you see them like check back 2 pair on the river or something, you know, you'll realize, right, okay, this guy when he bets river is going to be really polar. Or if you see them checking back like a thin value spot, maybe not 2 pair specifically, or if you see them conversely like betting second pair on the river when checked to for value, or just betting it because, you know, you'll just see things that they shouldn't be doing in theory that are like so far removed from theory that you can massively, massively exploit them. And the only way you get to learn about that is by paying very close attention to hands you're not involved in and getting as much information about how they construct their range as you possibly can. And this is where you can like start getting edge on your fellow regs. You don't get edge on your fellow regs by outplaying them in terms of at the tables, because we already talked about that. We're just going to overfold against the boring cunts. But we gain edge against our fellow regs because if I'm there playing just 4 tables and my fellow regs are all there playing 6, 8, 10 tables, I'm going to collect that information way quicker than them. And like all these fish run at your table, you've got to view them as they've got like a little egg timer above their head, and it's just they're going broke. Who's going to fucking stack them and what have you. And you want to be the person who's like front of the queue for stacking them. It's all well and good to be playing 10 tables, trying to get your volume in, etc. But if you're missing loads and loads of vital information about the fish, then you're just going to have a really poor win rate still. Yeah, you're going to beat the games because at least you're playing reg tables, at least there's fish in your games. So you're going to win, but you're not going to have a great win rate because, you know, you're going to be missing out loads and loads of vital information. Just pay enormous attention to showdowns. It's your job. When you should be a little bit bored when you're playing, you should have enough time to observe hands you're not involved in, and then build up reads on your weakest opponents as quickly as possible. It's a race to stack them. It's a race for information. And if you're collecting more information than your fellow regs on a fish, then you just put yourself as favourite to be the first person to fucking felt them. So, yeah, just get engaged with fish and don't overburden yourself with volume with tables, and then just figure them out. Try and figure them out quicker than than the people you're up against, than your regulars. So yeah, you, as I brought down here, you've got to be playing a manageable amount of tables. If your fellow regs are playing more tables than you, and they're autopilot to fuck, you're way more likely to pick up on the specific mistakes that the fish are making, and find ways to exploit their leaks before a fellow reg gets to cooler them in a more traditional way. That's actually what I wrote down. That's kind of what I'm saying there. It's a race for information. The regs eventually stack them when the regs have the overpair, then the fish makes top pair or what have you, and that's where the regs eventually get them. The ones who are playing too many tables, whereas you know players like myself will get them sometimes because I'll just notice that they're over bluffing in a weird spot, or they're doing something wrong, and it'll help me get them. Maybe I won't get them all in one big pot. Maybe I'll chop them down, like death by 2 or 3 cuts, rather than the one big fucking cooler. But yeah, I will get them. I will get them, and I do get them, and I very much enjoy getting them. So yeah, that's kind of what we need to do against fish. So then I think like we're getting close to wrapping this up. Something I do want to say is because I see a lot of I talked to quite a lot of players. I started doing a little bit of like very affordably priced coaching with losing recreational players recently, and what I've seen them do, a lot of them do, is like they try and recreate the style of play of people they watch on YouTube or on streams or what have you. And you don't really want to do that. You don't want to. You don't be afraid of doing things differently to how you see in your like favorite streamer or favorite YouTuber playing. I mean, by all means, observe them carefully because if you're watching the streams and you're enjoying them and listening carefully, you can pick up genuinely a lot of like real good nuggets of advice, on certain lines they take. If they do have some certain exploits, and they're probably going to be well thought out, decent exploits. So have a good listen for them for those sort of things because there are going to be good nuggets of advice in there. But just don't follow their strategies and blindly and try and implement them blindly because like they're having to do things that makes them less exploitable. They're streaming their card. They're streaming. They're showing their whole cards. Quite often, people in the pool will be watching their stream, so they can't do world exploits against fellow regs who may be watching because they'll just make themselves way too exploitable. So they've got to try and play like a closer to equilibrium. They get nowhere near, of course, because that's really hard to do. But they've got to try and just play a lot more like GTO is the wrong word because GTO is about exploitory, not about equilibrium. They've got to try and find that equilibrium a lot more, just to make themselves less exploitable. That leads them to making more bluffs than perhaps they want to make. It leads them to making more like hero call downs than maybe they'd want to make. But it's just what they've got to do. It's just part and parcel of being a streamer. It undoubtedly costs them EV to stream, but if they're a popular streamer, then they're making that back and more with like the revenues they get from their content and their affiliate links and all those types of things. So it's just checks and balances. They're without question severely restricting their edge in the games, but they're getting that back in spades in other ways. So yeah, they basically don't try and do the stuff they're doing because they wouldn't be playing the way they were playing if they weren't streaming most of the time. They'd be doing things very differently. So if you're trying to like recreate what you think they're doing in your own game because you think they're a good player, and then you're doing some of the stuff they do, it's likely that you're going to be making quite a lot of mistakes. Secondly, like almost invariably, they're playing speed poker and they're playing games that are really hard to beat. Don't follow them into the speed poker pools. We're not going to go back into that again, but don't follow them into their pools. Yeah, if you want to get on stream and try and pull a bluff on them, like for fun or whatever, by all means do that. But generally speaking, don't be playing in the games they're playing in, especially when they're not streaming. These guys are probably like better than you, but they're grinding it, but they barely beat the game. So like, why would you? If they're already a better player than you and they're grinding a game that they barely beat, why would you want to follow them into it? Like I say, if they're streaming and you want to just get on stream and you want to get a bluff past them and show it and whatever and troll them, great, get it. I get on board with that, But then just be aware, we're not playing to try and win money at that point. We're playing purely for entertainment, and that's very different. If you want to spunk a few quid off purely in the name of entertainment, trying to get yourself on stream genuinely, and I mean this with all sincerity, go for it, do it, have a bit of fun, but make sure it's money you can afford to lose. So yeah, this brings me like to my No, it doesn't. Hang on, I've misread there. Sorry, I've misread my notes. Yeah, and I guess the final thing about streamers is, and if you follow the same sort of people I do, you probably know the same two or three streamers I'm talking about here. They regularly talk about how much they fucking hate poker. They really don't like it. They get really angry, and that's part of what makes them so like watchable. Because I'm not watching them because I want to learn from them. Although now and again, you do pick up some nice little like tips, or you'll see things they're doing that you see lots of other regs doing. You're like, well, that's pretty exploitable. You can watch and learn, but I primarily watch them because they just get angry, and I like watching poker players getting angry. And they're regular, like, I fucking hate this game. I really don't enjoy this game. I don't want to be playing this game, etc. And that does now bring me to like pretty much my final point, which is you've got to fucking enjoy it. It's a hobby. It's something we're trying to be enjoying. You just have to enjoy the game. I mean, if you're not enjoying the game, it's a fucking huge shame. I mean, poker's meant to be a fun hobby, right? Or a fun way to make an extra few quid in pocket money. Um, so if you're not enjoying it, just fucking go and do something else. If you need the extra money, if you're not enjoying it, you need the extra money. Fucking go out a few nights a week and deliver fucking takeaways. Do a bit of taxiing. Do so. If you need the extra money and you're not enjoying playing poker to get it, then do something else. I'd rather be out there taxiing than I would be fucking playing poker if I didn't enjoy poker. I'm lucky that I found a way to play the game, make money, and enjoy it. So I'm aware how like privilege is the wrong word, but aware how lucky I am to have like stumbled into that situation. And whenever I try and take myself out of that situation, like I'll try and do a speed poker challenge, or like this month I'll try and do a volume challenge. I'd also stop enjoying the grind, and therefore then I just don't play as well. So you've got to enjoy it. If you're enjoying it, you're way more likely to produce your A game more often. And if you're not enjoying it, just like I said, just don't fucking play. Do something else. Just fucking start an OnlyFans page or whatever. Just get your fucking wife involved. I don't fucking know. Just do what you got to do to make money in a way that you enjoy it. Life can be like depressing enough. You don't want to be hating your fucking hobbies. Playing games you can afford to lose in without it really getting on your fucking nerves, without it pissing you off. And play a format that can be beat. Playing games with a decent chunk of players who are significantly worse than you. It's not difficult. It's not fucking rocket science. If you want to enjoy poker, play for stakes you can afford, play for games that can be beat, find morons. It's really not difficult. If you're doing all those things long term at the end of the year, you're going to make a few quid. If you're not following that advice, you're drawing dead. Or pretty much, you're very likely you're drawing dead. We should be enjoying playing. If we're not enjoying it, just find something new to do. Life's way too short to waste your spare time shouting at your monitor, calling people you've never met and never will be useless fucking cunts. We've all done it. We'll all do it again, but life's too fucking short for it. So we're pretty much about the end of the video. We're just going to basically sum up the cliff notes now, and we're going to do this very quickly. It's just game select. Just game select, game select, game select. Treat fellow regs like empty seats, just like they're empty chairs. Fine. If they're not there, open your ranges, overfold to them. Just refuse to give them loose action. If they open in front of you, only continue with like top of range stuff. Just fuck them. Just treat them like empty seats. Don't have too many of them at your table. In the games I play, if there's if we get to the point where there's all regs and one fish, I'm just gone. If it's regs and two fish, I'll stay. Ideally, my sweet spot's me and all fish, then me one reg, some fish. But once I'm at a table where the regs outnumber the fish, I'm just gone. Because the edge just isn't there anymore. Your BB, what your expected win rate, the more regs are at the table, the lower your expected win rate's going to be. And I'm all about having a high win rate. So, yeah, just basically treat regs with absolute contempt. Too many of them at your table, fuck them off. If one of them's at your table and he tries to get in your way, unless he's doing it like incredibly regularly, unless he you think he's cottoned on to the fact you're overfolding virtually them, and then he starts getting out of line, then you've got to now and again you got to tap him on the nose. But yeah, just fucking treat them with utter contempt. Do not give them action. Collect information on the fish quicker than your fellow regs. That goes back to playing fewer tables, making sure that you're understanding how regs are building their ranges, so you can exploit them better than your fellow regs. That's the way. That's how you find edge on the regs. You're not going to find edge on the regs by outplaying them very easily. You are going to find edge on them if they're playing 8 tables, you're playing 4. You instantly have an edge on them because you're going to get the fish way more often than they're going to get the fish in terms of frequency. You're gonna be playing more pots against the fish than they are because they're going to be like autopiloting a lot more. You're going to have more information on the fish. You're going to be able to exploit the fish better than they are because again they're not paying attention. You can't play 8 to 10 tables of regular tables and know what the fish are doing. You just fucking can't. And yeah, the very last thing, just fucking enjoy yourself. Just enjoy the fucking game. When poker first invented, it was a fun game and pros beat Rex and Rex didn't care. Then online came along and it was the same. And the more poker evolves, the more really salty, they're not even Regs, tight fish there are kicking around who just fucking hate life, hate the game, hate everyone else, and they waste way too much energy focusing their rage on players that are maybe better than maybe not. But they're just instead of focusing on I'm really not enjoying this. How can I improve my enjoyment? I.e., how can I fucking make more money? They just focus on fuck everything shit, and they focus too much on the negatives. And don't do that. Just if you follow the advice I've given in all of this, go back and listen to it a few times if you're serious, because every single bit of advice I've given in here is advice you're very unlikely to hear elsewhere. Although every single bit of advice I'm giving here, I stand by. I'd argue this with anybody. I have not given one bit of bad advice in this video. Some people will argue that my advice about overfolding to regs is bad advice because we can do better than that, and of course we can. But it's by no means fucking bad advice. Just follow the advice in this video, playing good games. Don't give regs loose action. Quickly learn how to exploit fish. Don't overburden yourself with tables. And fucking have fun. Do all of those things. And I guarantee you your 2023 poker experience is very likely to be better than your 2022 poker experience. So I think we'll leave it there. I'm going to wish you all Merry Christmas now. It's still 17 days to go. And who knows, I might produce another video before then. It feels unlikely to me, but I might produce another video before then. But I'm going to wish you Merry Christmas anyways. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, all of those things. And last but not least, absolutely fuck the Tories. Hopefully we get a chance to fucking get rid of them next year. Although I suspect the horrible cunts are going to make us wait until 2024 before we can. But yeah, fuck them. Fuck regs. Happy Christmas. Maybe New Year and all that fucking stuff. And we'll see you on the next video. Take care, everybody. Really do take care. Stay safe and goodbye for now.